So I'm going to try to make this as brief, concise, and straight to the point as possible regarding Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. It's going to be my honest review. I'm not going to go super technical into the gameplay mechanics, but as someone who has casually played the previous two entries, again, I didn't 100% them. I enjoyed them. I'm not a massive Hyrule Warriors fan. I haven't played all the Warriors games, but I have really enjoyed the previous two Hyrule Warriors games specifically. And going into Age of Imprisonment, again, I'm a huge Zelda fan, so that's kind of what introduced me to the Warriors series. I know there's other Warriors games, obviously, that have been made in the past, but I'm going to be comparing this, first of all, as a Zelda fan, as a Nintendo fan, and also comparing to kind of the previous entries, more from a casual perspective. So again, this is all subjective. It's all my own personal thoughts and opinions, but let's go ahead and just rate this. And I'm also going to put probably just some really early game gameplay in the background, maybe from like my first kind of episode, because I did record a whole kind of playthrough series on the channel. If you want to check that out, you can check that out. But I want to say that if you play Tears of the Kingdom and you like Tears of the Kingdom, you have to play this game because it adds so much backstory, so much lore, so much rich lore. Like right off the top, the very first cutscene is just filled with so much lore. There seems to be, I mean, I haven't compared, but there seems to be more cutscenes, and even if there's not just more cutscenes, it's the cutscenes seem to be of a higher caliber, a higher quality, even if you will, than the previous entries. Age of Calamity being the previous one. Age of Calamity stepped it up, obviously massively from the previous Hyrule Warriors games. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first Hyrule Warriors game was not canon, but then Age of Calamity, Nintendo's like, okay, this one's going to be canon, and then Age of Imprisonment again. So Age of Imprisonment, as it sounds, right, is the imprisonment period in the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom kind of, sense of the world. Age of Calamity was the Calamity War, the Calamity kind of period, and this one here is based on the Imprisonment War. What is the Imprisonment War? Well, the way Tears of the Kingdom starts is with, basically a very classic dark entity being released from its captivity, its imprisonment. And so the question is, how did that evil person, if you will, how did they get imprisoned? And that's what this is focusing on. It's all that lore. So if you played Tears of the Kingdom and you did all the kind of even the side stuff that gave you the additional cutscenes, like the Dragon Tears or whatever it was, and you got all those cutscene stuff, this basically, some of the cutscenes are repeated, like short segments of the cutscenes, but then they're greatly expanded. You see a lot of like the before and after of what we didn't see in Tears of the Kingdom, and it fills in all the blanks, and there's a lot of blanks to be filled. It's not that Tears of the Kingdom was incomplete and it didn't give us, a full kind of picture. It's just, there's always more story that you could tell, and that's what this game does. So from a lore standpoint, if you're a massive Zelda lore fan, you have to play this game just for that reason alone. If you're a fan of Tears of the Kingdom, even just Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom kind of games, and you would like to know more about this world and these stories, again, you have to play this game. It goes really in depth with the lore and everything. Now, the music, of course, it's taking a lot of the music from Tears of the Kingdom and whatnot, but it's like the way they kind of orchestrate it, the way, kind of transitions between songs and just, maybe remixes, if you will, and just how they're implemented. The music is insane. The music itself is a perfect 10 out of 10. Without a shadow of a doubt. It is so good. It's unbelievable. So the music, amazing. The story, the lore, again, super rich, extremely intriguing, very high quality, lengthy cutscenes. I mean, you're getting a lot of cutscenes, man. It's pretty awesome. They didn't skimp on this whatsoever. They put in good work in terms of the cutscenes. So that's all great. Game runs buttery smooth 60 FPS. I don't think I believe I'd read that it's not quite hitting, it's not hitting 4K or anything. I think it's like around 900p on console, maybe 1080p. So it's actually not, the full capabilities of the resolution that the Switch can offer. But the focus was, and for a game like this, you're gonna appreciate that. The focus was the frame rate. You want buttery smooth frame rate, and it's buttery. I didn't have many instances, if any. There might have been once or twice that I can recall tell that maybe I had some like frame rate drops, but it was pretty smooth. And there's a lot going on, tons and tons and tons of enemies, more enemies than there were in previous entries. There's a lot of enemies sometimes on screen, and just all the different move sets are absolutely insane. You can do a bunch of different kind of moves for each individual character, but then you can also do these sync moves where you basically do this move synced up with another character. So most of the characters, there's a lot of characters that I'm not going to spoil, but two of the characters that obviously you were probably aware of that are in the game is King Hyrule and Princess Zelda, right? And so, for example, they can sync up and do a kind of a move together, and different sync ups are going to have different, different moves, if you will, right? So it's fantastic. There's a lot of characters actually in this game that you start unlocking. There's some lesser characters that are not really kind of like main characters, right? Like some like random Hyrulean kind of soldier, if you will, for example. But there's a lot of main characters as well, right? Like I said, King Hyrule is obviously one of them. You've seen the Korok, the little Korok guy. And I'll say this, I'm not going to spoil this, but there is a ton of lore, even regarding just that Korok guy and just the Koroks in general. And just the kind of the Hyrule Forest and the Lost Woods and stuff. There's a lot you're going to learn about that as well. So there's a lot you're going to learn about all these different things. There's some connections to past games, not as maybe forward, but it's there that if you've played other entries in the Legend of Zelda series, you're gonna be like, oh, I see some connection. They're tying some connections here and there. It's a Zelda lore's dream. It's really good in terms of all that. But the gameplay, getting back to the gameplay. Again, a lot of different movesets you can do. You can implement the Zonai devices, so you can, use flame emitters and stuff. You can use, they can have like the shock emitter, frost emitter. And the cool thing about that is like matching up against certain enemies. So for example, if there's an enemy that's like fire and you're using ice or water against it, it's going to be pretty effective. It's going to melt their health, right? So it's thinking about those kind of elemental matchups even. And I've noticed, almost like accidentally actually, that you can do some other stuff. For example, there is a couple different Rito, characters, and they use wind. But if you combine wind while you have something else going on with, let's say, fire, it creates almost like a flame, like tornado or vortex. It's crazy. So you can really think about these different things and kind of how you can mix and match different attacks and elements and against different enemies, and it's wild. So a lot of crazy different things going on. The maps are fantastic. Of course, you're going to go across all the different kind of maps that are in, from Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, that's going to explore the depths and the mainland and the sky and all that. So really cool environments, and obviously all the different enemies and whatnot. If you don't know, this game is a kind of hack and slash sort of game. Lots and lots of enemies you're just kind of hacking at. You're doing all these cool combos and all these cool different moves that look really cinematic and just epic. And it's really nice. It's a really like kind of showy game, and it's satisfying. The gameplay is very, very satisfying. If you played previous Hyrule Warriors games, you know that these games have a very satisfying kind of game mechanic to them. And this one builds upon that, immensely, I would say. A lot more depth to this game than even previous entries. It's like every single Hyrule Warriors games, they're just blowing the previous one out of the water, and just like, wow, okay, that's insane. And so the gameplay is really, really good. Like I said, a lot of different kind of things you can do. You can get a bunch of different kinds of materials and foods and stuff, and kind of upgrade, like going into a match at some point when you're, so far into the game. Going into a game, you can basically have it so you can increase how much XP you're earning, or your movement speed, or how fast your special gauge is moving up. So again, you got your sync abilities, you got your special abilities, and then of course you have just kind of like your normal, I forget what they're actually called, but there's like these abilities that will recharge. They're basically like, I guess, not the Zonai device, because you have the Zonai battery, which is for the Zonai devices, and you can find batteries and recharge the batteries per match. Each match that you go into, each level you go into, you start back with full kind of 4 out of 4 batteries. But then also you have like your sort of, they're not special abilities, but they're like, let's call them special moves, I guess. So you have like your special abilities, which are kind of like, there's like a meter at the top left corner that fills up. And once that fills up, you can push the A button to a special ability. But then like there's kind of like these special moves that are also timed, and there's different kinds that you can do and counter different enemies depending on what they're doing. And like, for example, if there's like an enemy with like a lot of armor or rock on them, then you're going to need to use this one that has like a little shield logo on it. So anyways, stuff like that. So again, terms of like matchups, a lot more depth, but it's not complicated. I might make it sound a little bit more complicated and more kind of overwhelming than it is, but it's really not. You can go in there, you know, and just kind of be very, very basic, or there is a little bit more depth you can kind of go into and dig into, which is really, really nice. So all in all, the game is fantastic. A lot of different characters to kind of choose from. You're going to be exploring so much lore in terms of the Zelda universe, and specifically Tears of the Kingdom and that whole Imprisonment section, and the cutscenes are fantastic. The music is amazing, and again, the story is crazy, man. As it kind of unpacks, you're gonna be mind blown if you're into that as a Zelda lore fan. All in all, game is a solid 9.8 out of 10 for me. I was tempted giving it a perfect 10 out of 10, but I'm always hesitant to give perfect 10 out of 10s. But either way, this game is a masterpiece. They did so good with it. And in my opinion, first of all, if you're a Zelda fan, you got to play this game. It'd be crazy not to play this game. I get it's not a mainline Zelda game, but it still focuses on so much that is mainline. And again, the gameplay is still fun, even though it's not kind of your typical traditional sort of Zelda game. You got to jump into this game. You got to pick it up if you're a Zelda fan. And if you're a Nintendo Switch 2 owner, it's one of those games that I would say is a must play. There's always those must-play kind of games per console, and I think Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is one of those must-plays on the Switch 2. I absolutely thought it was fantastic. I loved it. There's a lot of side stuff, by the way, you can do as you kind of go and progress through the game. You can upgrade your weapons. That's some more stuff that I forgot to mention. You can upgrade your weapons. You can, of course, do all these different things to increase, you know, your sort of just these sort of side things that pop up that you need so many materials to kind of unlock, if you will, and that'll give you like extra hearts for a certain character or an extra special meter for a certain character. And so there's a lot more to do than just kind of go into these levels as well. There's some, like I said, some side levels which are fun to kind of just do and kind of supplement in between, you know, all the story stuff. And it's just a really, really good game. So I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I didn't go completely in depth in this review, but I hopefully I gave you enough to kind of go off of and you know, determine whether you want to jump into this world or not. So again, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe for more. Until the next one, game on. I'll see you guys later.